Hi y'all, this is Larry at Deep South, Texas. I had a request on my last bread video to make raisin bread. So today we're going to make Cinnamon Swirl Raisin Bread. And that request came from Joe Davis. My family has also been after me to do a raisin bread video too. So we're going to do that today. So to start out, we're going to add a half a cup of water that's warm to the touch, and we have 1 tablespoon of instant yeast. We're going to sprinkle that on top of the water, and 1 teaspoon of sugar. We're just going to dump that in for right now. Now we'll let this yeast hydrate, and then we'll mix it all together and wait till it starts foaming. Well, that yeast is foaming up pretty nicely. So we'll get that all mixed, and to that we're going to add a half a cup of milk. It's whole milk that's warm to the touch. 1 tablespoon of brown sugar, and 2 tablespoons of melted butter that's also cooled down to just warm to the touch. Okay, let's set this aside for a second and get the flour ready. I have 2½ cups of all-purpose flour, and to that I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of kosher salt and 1 tablespoon of ground cinnamon. And then we're going to mix that all up. And to that, I'm going to add 1 cup of raisins. And that's about 6 ounces of raisins. I'm going to put them in a few at a time, get them mixed up in the flour. There, that looks pretty good. Now, I'm going to start adding this to our wet ingredients here. A little bit at a time, and mix it up. So we'll get that all mixed in, and then we'll get back. Well, that's kind of mixed together. Let's put this out on a breadboard now and knead it for a little bit. Okay, let's dump it out. Got a silicone spatula here to get it all out onto the breadboard. Okay, I'm going to start kneading. I have a little bit of extra flour here if I need it to put on while I'm kneading, and I got my plastic scraper that I use quite a bit. Let's start kneading this dough. And you never know, it's sort of The wetness of the dough sort of depends on what your humidity is locally, so sometimes you need to add a little bit more flour. I try to avoid that if I can, but it's not always possible to do that. So we'll be adding a little bit of flour here as we go along. I probably have, I don't know, a tablespoon or two of flour here that I can add if I need to. And we'll use the scraper from time to time to just get it all back together again. It's feeling pretty good. It's feeling pretty good. So we'll just keep kneading, and we'll try to knead for about 8 minutes. That seems to be about the right amount of time. So if you have trouble kneading, you can do this in a stand mixer, I think. Should work out okay. Probably knead it for 5 minutes instead of 8, but it'll work out okay. So I'm just going to knead here for 8 minutes, and we'll get back to you when that's done. And here's what the dough looks like after kneading. So while I was kneading, I used about, a tablespoon of extra flour. Now, I have washed out and oiled my mixing bowl, and we're going to put our dough in there, and we're going to add just a sprinkling of flour to the top, not too much. Cover that with plastic wrap. And let that rise for 1 hour. The dough has risen, so now it's time to get it out of the bowl and start the shaping process. Okay, let's start the shaping process. I'm going to turn this out of the bowl. And flatten it out in kind of a round shape right now. Eventually this goes into a loaf, but we just want to start the process here. So start folding it in on itself to start to create some tension on that side that's on the bottom right now. Yeah. Get it back in. To a ball shape. And sprinkle a little bit more flour on the top. And we're going to cover it and let that dough rest for about 10 minutes. Okay, let's finish the shaping process. Flip our dough ball over again and flatten it out again, just like we did the last time. I got the roller out to flatten it out a little bit more. The thinner you get it at this point, the more swirls you'll see in the loaf of bread. when you get done. So. Okay, now we want to fold it into a trapezoid shape. And we want the bottom to be close in size to our bread pan. Let's see, make sure we don't overdo that. I think that's going to be okay. Now, I've got an egg wash, which is 1 egg and a tablespoon of water. And now we're going to brush that on our dough. And when you're making like cinnamon rolls, you're probably going to use butter. But if you use butter on this, then when you roll it up, it won't stick together right. And if it won't stick together right, then when you put it in the toaster, it sort of falls apart. So this is the way you want to do it. Now, for the filling, we have a tablespoon of cinnamon, a tablespoon of brown sugar, a teaspoon of white sugar, and 2 teaspoons of all-purpose flour. We're going to mix that together and sprinkle that on our dough. And the flour also helps hold it together. Oh, and by the way, if you don't want to use egg wash, I think you can use water or milk. It probably won't work as well, but they will work a little bit. So now we just sprinkle this concoction over our dough. And then we're going to roll our dough up into a loaf shape. So pull on it a little bit, stretch it a little bit, and start rolling it up. Stretching it as you go to make a tight roll. And then pinch that seam together as best as you can. And then we got our bread pan here, and hopefully we got the right size, and it'll fit in there just like that. Now we'll cover that with our plastic wrap again, and we'll let that rise for another hour. And about halfway through that, We'll start the oven up to preheat the oven to 350 degrees. And the plan is to bake this for about 45 minutes. Okay, let's let this loaf rise. Okay, it's time to get this bread in the oven. The oven has been preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and expect to bake this for 45 minutes. We'll check it at 40 to see how it's looking, but expecting 45 minutes. Let's get it in the oven. So it's been a little bit more than 40 minutes, and I looked at the bread and I think it's ready to come out of the oven. So let's get it. And there it is. So let's brush the top with a little melted butter. Try to keep it nice and soft. And then, let's see if we can get it out. Usually they come right out. There we go. Looks good. Give it the thumb test. Yeah, I think it's done. Well, our Cinnamon Swirl Raisin Bread is almost cool. Let's slice it up and see what it looks like inside, huh? Wow. I'd say that looks pretty good. Okay. So the way to eat this bread is as toast in the morning. So toast it and put some butter on it, and it's really good. So let's try that now. So I toasted one up, put some butter on it, and now we're going to taste it. Looks pretty good. Plenty of cinnamon, plenty of raisins. Tastes just like the bread you buy at the store, but much cheaper to make. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it that thumbs up. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again next time.